candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning, this is Bill Krause, WGNS Radio Roundtable on a Thursday morning. I did not realize until the other day I was looking at the calendar. Tomorrow's Friday the 13th, so hopefully everybody is going to have a great, great day. We're having a wonderful visit planned this morning. A visit initially with a dear, dear friend who I've had the pleasure of knowing almost 20 years. That's pretty hard to imagine. Gary Winton, who is the director of campus at Motlow State in the Smyrna campus. Gary has been celebrating 25 years, did you say?
In August of this year it will be.
You started as a kindergartner.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And Gary has brought a newly hired appointed director of the Distilled Spirits program for Motlow State. And we want to really hear about what a distilled program is. We're talking about students who will learn to be distillers. I guess that would be a good word. But basically, Gary, reintroduce the visitors from our radio audience to you. You were born, you're a local guy, how you developed, school, what you do, and life itself.
Good morning. It's good to be back with you, Bill. I always appreciate being in the space you're in, and always very grateful for your friendship and your kind words. You're always that rainbow in the cloud, so I always appreciate you very much.
Not the pot of gold.
To borrow a phrase from Dr. Angelo. But I was born and raised in Manchester and still live there and do the drive in and out to Smyrna every day and enjoy my time at Motlow College. I spent 6 years at the home campus in Lynchburg and then was able to transfer to Smyrna as the assistant director of student services. So in 2006, I had everything student related.
Right.
And was a lot of fun and craziness all rolled into one.
But you counted the Smyrna students in the hundreds rather than in the thousands.
I think that first semester I was there, we had 600 students.
And we were still at the military base?
No, we were at the Walker building, the single-story building.
One.
Opened,
when I started, we were
opened
over
in May
at
of
the
2006
facility. Yep. And I remember that groundbreaking. I remember that dedication. Brand new campus comes to Smyrna.
That's right.
And
a good place to be and great people. Our students have been amazing over these 19 years, and they've gone on to do such great things. And we have one that's now part of the TBI, so I'm extra proud of him.
Absolutely. And you brought one of the new hirees, a gentleman that we really want to hear all about, Bruce Boyko. Bruce, tell us about yourself. You were born and lived and roamed all over the world, it seems like.
Well, that's true. I've lived a number of places, but I have been here in Tennessee. It'll be 29 years this August. I was born in Montreal, Canada. I had a Canadian father and an American mother. We moved from Montreal to New Orleans
You
when I
still
was a
speak
baby.
French?
It's funny you say that. I'm learning French.
Wow.
I did study it in high school and in college, but I didn't really take it seriously then. But I learned about Duolingo a few years ago, and I just hit 700 days consecutive study on Duolingo, I believe, yesterday. So I'm working on that.
Wow.
I do have family in Canada. It's a long, complicated story, but Canada to New Orleans to New Jersey to North Carolina, which is where I went to school. Where I studied biology, where I became a biologist and started my first career, which ultimately was a forensic scientist and a director of a DNA testing lab. That brought me to Nashville in '96. And we had a lab operating in Nashville. At one point, it was probably the biggest commercial forensic laboratory in the world, doing something like 25,000 DNA tests a month. And we did that until 2011. And in 2011, I had the opportunity to stay with that company, relocate to Dallas, or to do something else. And I decided to stay in Nashville, get my MBA, and start a business.
Where'd you get your MBA at?
Got my MBA at Tennessee Tech.
Oh, okay.
And
Best donut shop in the world in Cookeville.
in Cookeville.
Ralph's.
Yeah, and with that, I decided I wanted to open a business. I didn't know what business I was going to do at first. And so I started exploring some things. I actually went to a school of lutherie, which is guitar building and other musical instruments, briefly in Michigan, the Gallup School of Lutherie up there in Big Rapids.
Were you a guitar player at the time?
I've been a guitar player since, I think since I was about 12 years old. Prior to that, I was a violin player.
Neat.
And I wish I had
Always
kept that
fiddle
up.
around?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wish I had kept that up, because I don't know if either of you have ever played the violin, but when I was a kid, it didn't seem so hard. After playing guitar for many, many years, trying to get the intonation on that very small scale with no frets, very challenging. So maybe after I get my French locked down, I'll get back to the violin.
Absolutely.
But I went to that school, and then I did a business plan. I had a freshly minted MBA, and I knew how to write a business plan. And I looked at it, and I thought, the one thing this business plan needs is a time machine.
Wow.
To be a luthier, and there obviously we've got some of the best luthiers in the world here in Middle Tennessee.
Yep.
You really need to. It's typical for the ones that become very successful to be kind of in the mentor apprentice mode, and to apprentice and learn that over many years, to just come out and suddenly want to sell your custom made guitars or whatever for $5,000 a piece.
How long would you say, just off the top of your head, it would take to make a quality guitar?
Well, I think to learn to be really good at it would take several years. To make a good guitar, again, I didn't go too deep in this world, but the small luthiers that I know of, a lot of times they'll make 10, 12 instruments a year. There are, there's a certain amount of automation, CNC machining that can get involved. And again, for all the luthiers out there, I apologize if I'm describing this terribly. There are some small luthiers that can get a little bit of a force multiplier with some of the technology, but the traditional luthiers working with hand tools, I don't think many of them make more than maybe dozens of instruments a year. And if you do the math on what it costs you to make it, what they sell for, that's where I needed the time machine. And so the next thing I did is I went to a distilling school. I had been making alcohol for fun, like a lot of biologists and other scientists of my generation. The 80s, when I was in college, is when the craft beer explosion happened in the United States and elsewhere. And I was a college student. I was interested in beer. I learned fermentation science in school. And pretty soon I made my first batch of beer. And having done that for many years for fun, when I was looking for what is this business I want to start, something caught my attention, that craft distilling was becoming a new emerging movement. And I went to the first class that they held for a distilled spirits training program at a place called the Distilled Spirits Epicenter in Louisville, Kentucky. The name of the school is Moonshine University.
That will get you traction.
I don't think many people go there or going to make moonshine, but that's, some of them are. But being there in Louisville, in the kind of the heart of bourbon country, we had some great instructors, some guest lecturers that have been involved in that for a while. I did a business plan after that program, and it worked. It looked on paper that that's something that you could actually do. And so
had you talked to other distillers?
I did. I called around. I talked to brewers and distillers, and I'll say Billy Kaufman at Short Mountain Distillery. Thank you. He's the first person who answered my phone call and said, "Come on up and have a visit." So I went out to the farm out there at Short Mountain, and I got to hold a baby goat and transport it for, this has nothing to do with distilling, but
I was just trying to put it together.
well, I was a veterinary assistant in college. I've been a biologist for years, and I thought, he had a goat that wasn't getting proper nutrition from the mother, so they were going to go ahead and foster it for a while and bottle feed it. So that was my introduction to Short Mountain. Got to carry that goat over to the foster, and then he took me back to the distillery and showed me around, showed me his operation. And Billy also, at that time, I believe he was on the board of the Tennessee Distillers Guild, which was newly minted at that time. This would have been 2014. Invited me to join the guild, even as our distillery applications for permits were getting set up. And I went to my first Distillers Guild meeting back, I believe, in the fall of 2014. So if I understand correctly from the history I've been told, that was the second meeting of the guild. So I've been part of that for a long time. Eventually did serve on the board there. And our guild is actually how I came to know about the program at Motlow State. I was contacted by some folks over there who knew that Motlow State, in participation or together with Nearest Green Distillery and Jack Daniel Distillery, were starting this distilled spirits program. And as soon as I heard about it, I thought that's for me, because teaching, education, the process, the science, the history, all the things that go along with distilling is what really gets me going.
Gary, from your standpoint as the director of the facility at Motlow, Smyrna, and so forth, do you see a potential of this on the Smyrna campus? I know in Moores County, of course, with being a neighbor of Jack Daniels, there's got to be a natural flow. How about in Smyrna? How about in Rutherford County? Do you see
the way that distilleries in general, as we were talking before we began our show, they have grown so much over, what was it, the last 20 years or so?
Yes.
And nationwide, not just in Tennessee.
Yes.
And I think that's such a hobby for people anymore, that with Dr. Johnston's program at the fermentation science at MTSU,
yeah.
that one has grown. And yes, I think people are looking for hobbies, and I think that's a good hobby for some people.
So what you're saying is this is not necessarily just a career preparation. This is somebody who, and I don't know whether the profile and demographic would be a long-time beer drinker or a long-time whiskey drinker, but it's an opportunity for them to expand their horizons.
I agree with that, but I would also say that this is a degree granting program.
Okay.
Students that complete this program are going to get an associate's in applied science in distilled spirits. It's the only program like it that we're aware of. And yes, we absolutely encourage people that are enthusiasts, maybe people that are even entrepreneurial who want to come in and learn how to do it and maybe start their own operation. But we also encourage traditional students and folks with all different kinds of backgrounds that are interested in this. Middle Tennessee is one of the main homes of whiskey making in America. Tennessee and Kentucky is where most of the whiskey has been made in the United States for many, many years. And we have big distilleries, we've got small distilleries, we've got opportunities for people for employment in Tennessee and around the country and elsewhere. We also have opportunities in related fields in the industries that supply yeast and grains and bottles and make barrels. And there's a hospitality element to it. So there is a lot of opportunity. This is definitely something that we think people can come in and they will have an opportunity to get out there and find employment in this field if that's what they're looking for.
Would you say that children of current distillers are a prospective population?
I would, and I have heard several of the people that have talked to me about applying for the program. And by the way, registration is open right now. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and apply. We have a limited number of positions for this, our inaugural class. And let me restate, Nearest Green Distillery and Jack Daniel Distillery, two monsters, enormous leaders in the field, are supporting this program. Several of the people that have reached out to me had a father or a grandfather or some ancestor.
Be a family connection.
Yeah, or, I mean, when you talk about people who work at distilleries, that's a big thing for the folks in Lynchburg. A lot of them, obviously a lot of the folks who live there have, everyone I've met really has some connection to the distillery. So maybe it's a family tradition, or maybe it's a new tradition that you want to start.
Right.
But Tennessee whiskey, which is a unique product, it's very close cousins with bourbon, but it's got its own unique thing, can only be made in this state, obviously. And here in Middle Tennessee, and particularly southern Middle Tennessee, is the heart of Tennessee whiskey production.
Absolutely. Would you also say that, let's say, as a brand new student, they're looking career, they're looking life, and they want to open up a distillery, do a number of distilleries ultimately become restaurants, dining, expansion? So it's not just initially beginning the learning of the quality, but the quality extends into other hospitality areas.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. Hospitality is a big part of the distilling world, particularly with the small distilleries to medium size, which are that's where the expansion has been in this market. So if the last data I saw, there was something like 70 registered distilled spirits plant permits, that's distilleries, essentially, in 2004, 70 in the U.S., and that's over 3,000 as of 2024.
Wow.
Most of those distilleries are small, and the small ones have a big hospitality component, whether it is giving tours, having a tasting room, or you mentioned restaurant. It was not legal until fairly recently to be a distillery and a restaurant at the same time.
That's interesting.
But the state of Tennessee passed a law that allowed, as long as an irrevocable trust is set up, there's some legal things that have to be done, but you can do that, and you can have, I mentioned Short Mountain, Billy Kaufman at Short Mountain, he's got a restaurant, a distillery, it's a music venue, it's out on a beautiful piece of land out there in Cannon County, and people go there for all those things. There are a number of other distilleries that have restaurants. Nelson's Greenbrier over there in West Nashville is another one. So that's one of the reasons there's overlap, and we are going to be having Dr. Jack Babb, who is the director of the new hospitality program at Motlow State, is going to be interacting with us. In fact, we're going to be doing a little golf fundraiser in a couple weeks, and Jack and I are the first two members of the team, and I'm talking to some folks at Motlow about how to round that out.
Are you a good golfer?
No, I'm not a good golfer, but I'm a good-natured golfer. So
I got you.
I'm not going to break any clubs. If I hit a couple good shots, I'll have a good day.
So the distillery, the 19th hole, is what
Sure.
the objective may be.
Sure.
Before we get back to you, Gary, give us the latest what's happening out in Smyrna. Growth of the campus, programs, opportunities. Of course, Motlow and Smyrna plays a huge role in the education and the quality of life in Rutherford and neighboring counties. Give us kind of an overview.
We started summer classes last Monday, and they will finish up the 3rd or the 2nd of August, online and in person as well. Our in-person classes are a little bit smaller. Students are continuing to like the online for the flexibility and so forth. And then registration for the fall is underway now. Orientation sessions for fall students began last week, and we're excited to see new students come in and have advisement, register for classes, and get their ID, and make sure that they're an official member of the family after getting their ID and classes and those types of things. And we're continuing to grow. We were, for last fall, I think it was right at 1,800 students.
Wow.
So we're looking to increase for this upcoming fall as well, and continue to thank the town of Smyrna for the support that they give us, and just moving and grooving.
One of the most beautiful things about a community college, and more specifically about Motlow, is parking is not an issue.
Correct.
And, if you're planning college, I'm not going to single out any particular university, but if you're planning college, believe it or not, the parking issue can have an impact on your academic experience. And if somebody tells you to take a 10 a.m. class, which is the peak of enrollment, and you can't find a place to park, or you're parking a mile away from the classroom, even having to wait for the little shuttle, your whole attitude becomes quite differently.
It does, you're right.
So parking. The one thing you will ultimately need is a food court.
Yes.
You've got to take a room, even with a little food court, availability for food at Smyrna.
And we've investigated that before, but nothing major has come of that yet. But we've even had food trucks in the past, and with all the new growth on Jeannie Lane that's directly across from campus, there are 4 or 5, and that's a mile away. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but for some students or staff, that's quite a way. So we're looking at different options for food.
Do you see any on the drawing board expansion physically of the plant? New building, for example? Do you have a 4th building?
Well, sometime there will be a 4th building. We don't know yet how all that's going to shake out. Governor Lee has invested or is investing so much in the TCATs, the Tennessee
Yes.
Colleges of Applied Technology, that the community colleges are kind of on hold to expand at the moment.
Absolutely. But you know what's always interesting? The first building at Smyrna, 1 story. The second building at Smyrna, 2 stories. The third building at Smyrna, 3 stories. Do you see a 4th building with a penthouse on the 4th floor?
No telling.
See, that would be your new offices overlooking beautiful Smyrna.
Yeah, definitely.
A view of the area. Some of the newer programs at Motlow, including robotics.
Mechatronics and robotics. We have an advanced robotics training center at our McMinnville campus, and we offer a few of those robotics classes as part of the Mechatronics program on the Smyrna campus, and those are very popular. Our students are being courted by companies the entire time that they're in the program, and they have a very high placement rate after they finish the program. So yes, those are nursing, allied health, medical laboratory technician, EMS, EMT, and paramedic. Those students are doing well, and they're finishing their certificates and degrees and moving into the workforce very quickly.
And you're tracking them as their success and so forth?
I believe those departments
Absolutely.
each keep up with
Keeping
those
up
for
with the whole
for
area.
records for the accrediting bodies.
Walk us through, and I make a great target out to our audience who are grandparents. I think grandparents can have a huge influence on the decision-making process of where their grandchildren should be attending school, what they should be looking for. Doesn't mean taking away from the parents, of course not. And I would probably say that's one of the most important parental involvements would be start early with your child. Start in middle school. Start, don't wait until the last 6 months of the senior year.
Right.
Your dual enrollment has been
exploded
a huge
here in
success.
Rutherford County.
With one, and I always point this out, whether it's you or Dr. Torrance, whoever else it may be, one of the limitations of dual enrollment, and especially Motlow is so key on this. A young man and young woman has gone through all the courses, dual enrollment, and they're going to graduate and get an AA degree. And they go through, many of them go through the Motlow graduation ceremony, associate arts degree. Then the next week they have to show up at high school to get their high school diploma.
That's
and
correct.
I have asked kids, I've said, isn't that anticlimactic? I mean, you're sitting in the bleachers and you're being told as a high school graduate, you've got the world ahead of you, and yet in your back pocket is your AA degree.
Right.
How do they deal with that trauma?
We have, I think it was 47 that graduated
Wow.
May 12th with their associate's degree from the early college program. And Hope Bakari, who is our vice principal of that from Laverne High School that's based on our campus, was with us last year and talked and told all about that program. Basically, we have juniors and seniors, their last 2 years of their high school career, that are based with us on campus those 2 years. Now, we've had the valedictorian and the salutatorian this year from Laverne High School, and I
Great.
think we had one of the two of them last year as well. So we're getting the cream of the crop. And the students, it's wonderful because they're in the same building that I'm in, and it's wonderful to hear
yes.
the life that they bring to the building and to the college as well, and to see their perspective. And when they're in classes with more mature students, adult students, that's good to see the two of them working together with the different generations and that type of thing. But we love having the early college program. Right now, dual enrollment through all of our 11 counties makes up 30% of the college
that a
enrollment.
fact? Wow.
So Sally Pack and then that team, they are leading the way and doing some great things with all the dual enrollment issues and things that go on with the
I
college.
did not realize till recently who Sally's father was,
He was State Senator Jerry Cooper.
who had a
And the-
major impact on supporting Motlow and
The
its
McMinnville campus has recently been named, or the classroom building has recently been named in honor of Senator Cooper.
I personally, I'll give this as a comment publicly. I look forward to teaching the early education. The
Early college students.
yes,
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy them because they're bringing a life of a young person, 16.
17.
There've been a couple 15, but 16, 17-year-olds, but they want to be mature. and they're now operating
They're
in a world.
exploring those options of how to do that.
So they're trying to balance the two quite differently than they may have in their. And the one area is they're not walking around with, "Oh, I'm a senior. Look at me," and say, "Wow." So let's get back to distillery.
All right.
And a beautiful Thursday morning. Do you have a particular profile or demographic of who might be a potential candidate for this program? You mentioned, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 16 is what you're looking for as your first entry class?
That's right. We're going to seat 16 students maximum for the inaugural class. And the profile, the world's going to show us to a certain degree, but obviously we've spent some time thinking about this, and I can tell you who I've spoken to and what their backgrounds are. Some folks are traditional students, even existing Motlow students who might want to switch their major or choose that as a major. So traditional students are some of the group, and just so everyone knows, the state passed a law a number of years ago prior to the fermentation science program at MTSU, which says students that in fermentation science in an accredited program that make alcohol can taste it, but they have to spit it out. So just
walk that through again.
So if you're 18 to 21
and you're in a class or in a lab
and you're making alcohol, you're going to have to sample it to get the sensory part of the program, but you're going to have to spit that out.
Please tell me, is that in the faculty contract that you have to go to each and every one of your 16 students and say, "Time to spit"? Is that what's going to be in the contract?
Not in the contract, but it is very clear that there will be no underage drinking. This is a degree in applied science. We're going to be teaching people a science, frankly, that is very important to the state of Tennessee with our history of Tennessee whiskey. So one group, to answer your question, would be traditional students coming out of high school. Another group are people that have already been in the industry for some period of time, and so maybe they're working, maybe they're on the bottling line at one of our distilleries or in quality control, and they would like a credential and to round out their knowledge. And this is a very broad program. It's going to cover everything from fermentation microbiology to the physics and chemistry of distillation to how to operate a forklift to the business of distilling to things involved in hospitality. So we're going to cover a lot of things. So some of those people might already be out in the field, or maybe they're working at a brewery, they've got an interest in it. And then there's a large diverse group of folks that have been out in the world, maybe already had a career. Some of them already have a degree in something else, and they might want to get into this because they're enthusiasts. They might be entrepreneurial, as I mentioned earlier, and they might be interested in possibly starting a distillery or partnering up with some folks. So there's a broad range that we expect to hear from and have already heard from. And as far as who gets those first 16 slots, I'll come back and let you know in August when we've got that all locked down.
I want to get back to the specific information. How do you register, dates, times, and so forth? And also the fact of people who have been laid off. You think of the Bridgestone facility that is closing. And, people attempting to think about a transition career, just not because of their own choice, but because of circumstances around. We'll be right back. We're having a delightful visit with Gary Winton, who is the director of campus at Motlow Smyrna, and with Bruce Boyko, who recently was brought on to the Motlow team to head up the new distillery enhancement program. And this is not only just of information, this has some really interesting attributes to it. We'll be right back.
When the weather turns bad, minutes, even seconds matter.
This is an early heads up for southern Rutherford County.
Rutherford Weather brings you live radar and expert meteorologist insight, giving you the early heads up when storms threaten.
A lot of areas are going to see some impacts from this storm.
From analysis to live camera views, we keep you informed before, during, and after the storm.
I think the vast majority of the hail with this now is going to be quarter to perhaps golf ball size.
Rutherford Weather. Stay ahead of the storm.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
If you want to get some barbecue, I'll tell you how to do it. Head for the Slick Pig and you're into it. Just walk through the door at 1920 East Main and your nose will send a message right to your brain. Say, smells good, and barbecue. Slick Pig. We got ribs and beans. Got spicy wings. Slick Pig.
A Murfreesboro tradition. 1920 East Main.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to goodrx.com/GLP. That's goodrx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
At the Garden Patch Thrift Shop on Spring Street, we believe in more than just great deals. Every purchase you make helps Greenhouse Ministry serve over 70 families a day, offering hope and changing lives in our community. From name brand clothing to household items or even large appliances, you'll find everything you need at prices that will fit your budget. Plus, 100% of the proceeds go back to the ministry. Visit the Garden Patch Thrift Shop today across from the tall NHC building in downtown Murfreesboro, where shopping changes lives.
Good Neighbor Events is brought to you by the law offices of John Day, AmeriCare Pest Control, and Old National Bank.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
Let's check those WGNS Good Neighbor events. This Friday's going to be a big day. Lightning bugs and lemonade. This Friday night, 6 until 9, over at Oakland's Mansion. It's an educational and fascinating evening of watching lightning bugs and learning about them. That's this Friday night, 6 until 9, at Oakland's Mansion. And also this Friday night, Main Street Murfreesboro brings back Friday Night Live, 6:30 to 9:30 on the east side of the historic Rutherford County Courthouse. Bring your lawn chairs and meet your friends. Enjoy some great music from Lisa Law and the Suspects. It's all free. Come early and enjoy dinner downtown. Don't miss Friday Night Live. Starts at 6:30. Don't forget, the Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Phone 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood. Don't throw away Old Glory. Bring your tattered American flag to WGNS and let the girls from BSA Troop 2019 at Trinity United Methodist Church retire it with dignity. Plus, we also recycle Bibles. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
We'll see a few spotty showers and thunderstorms at times this afternoon. Partial sunshine develops, a high around 90. Tonight, slight chance for storms, a low of 71. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 70.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Take control of your account management and energy consumption with the MyMTE app. Download from the App Store and manage your account, improve your energy habits, and more. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
This is Bill Krause on the second segment of the WGNS Radio Roundtable Thursday morning edition. And we're having a visit this morning with the director of campus. I got to say, the one person you go to if you need anything done on the operation, success, and effectiveness of Motlow's Smyrna campus, Gary Winton. And Gary brought with him a relatively new member of the Motlow team. Bruce Boyko, who is heading up the distillery engagement program, distillery creative program, and so forth. And let's talk about just the data. Let's suppose somebody wants information on this. And it may be a traditional beginning student. It may be a person going into a new career. It may be a person who wants to try something as an entrepreneur, creating their own homemade distillery. How do they get information? Who do they call? Where do they email? What do they do to register for the forthcoming August start date?
Well, there are several ways you can find us. First of all, if you go to motlow.edu, right there on the landing page, I don't know how long it's going to be the first thing that pops up, but the first thing that pops up right now is the page for the Distilled Spirits program. They can click on that, and it will take them directly to information, including my email, phone number. They can reach out to me directly. We are starting to host, I believe, next Wednesday, and every Wednesday until we've filled the class, we're going to have information sessions for potential students. So Wednesday at 3 p.m., we'll post information about how to log in, but you'll be able to log into a Zoom meeting and come on, and we'll give a presentation about the program, and you'll have an opportunity to directly ask me questions. We'll also have support from financial aid and recruitment. So any questions about all the registration details, which that's all new to me. So we'll have the people that are the experts there available to answer your questions. We're also going to be doing some in-person recruitment events, and those will be posted soon where people can come talk to me about the program.
Good.
Some of those will be on the various Motlow State campuses. We hope to also do some of those over at Nearest Green Distillery in Shelbyville, which is where the classes are going to be held. The program-specific courses for this program are going to be held at a beautiful, state-of-the-art distillery.
Newly renovated, isn't it?
Yeah, newly built, really. Nearest Green Distillery in Shelbyville.
One night a week? Or
It's going to be, we're starting with kind of traditional Monday, Wednesday mornings for the program-specific classes. But that's something that we're going to evaluate over time for future semesters if we want to get into evenings or even weekends. But for now, we've got those classes available for registration. So if you apply to Motlow State, you can, and you get your application completed, you can then register right now for one of these first slots. And let me point out again, there's really nothing like this out there, and the support of Jack Daniels and Nearest Green for this program is really unique, and I think we're gonna have wonderful opportunities that students really would not have in any other program, to be in those distilleries and interact with the experts, the distillers, and other folks involved in logistics and marketing, all the different elements. They're really going to learn a lot, and the fact that we have the support of those two world-class organizations makes this a very special opportunity.
Let's go a little further. How many people out there realize the direct relationship between the Motlow family and Jack Daniel? I mean, that linkage is so key, and we, for those of us, and I'm a relatively newcomer, for those of us who love to learn the history of the communities we live and serve, that's a fascinating relationship.
Yeah, I can say a few things about that, and I'm no historian, but it is my understanding that, first of all, Jack Daniel, who was taught to distill by Uncle Nearest, which is who Nearest Green Distillery is named after, and actually one of his direct descendants is the master blender over there. So Nearest Green taught Jack Daniel how to make whiskey. It's an amazing story. You can actually learn about it in many different ways, including there's a book that Fawn Weaver, who started Nearest Green Distillery, wrote called Love and Whiskey, which I completed a few months ago. It's got a lot of this information. But Jack Daniel, the world has known about him for a long time, and they're really getting to know about the man who taught him to make whiskey. Jack Daniel passed the distillery on when later in life, he was having health problems. And it's my understanding a few years before he passed it on to his nephew, Lem Motlow.
Okay.
And then Lem Motlow passed the distillery on. Ultimately, it went to his son, Rager Motlow. And Rager Motlow, who was the owner of the distillery, I believe in 1956, when it was acquired by Brown Forman, who still owns Jack Daniels, he stayed on the board. He became a politician. He did a lot of big things in his life, state senator. And one of the important things he did for the state is he donated the land that became Motlow State Community College in Moore County, and that's where the original campus is. It was, I only know this because I was born in 1969. It was born in 1969 also, and Motlow State has expanded to all these other campuses and all these great programs.
One of the most beautiful campuses in the United States, I will say.
I don't know how many people who have gone to Motlow State, who work at Motlow State, really know all of the history. I don't know all the history, but it really is connected very deeply in to this story of Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniels, and Jack Daniels' story is connected very deeply into Uncle Nearest's story. And again, it's a wonderful history to learn about, and we are going to be teaching that history. That's part of the program that we're going to be teaching these students.
How about safe drinking? Is that going to be involved in terms of managing one's enjoyment of Jack Daniels or the product similar to it, but doing it in a correct manner?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about that. First of all, in all of in my prior career as a distiller, and having owned and operated a distillery with a tasting room, and certainly in this new venture with Motlow State, we want to make sure that everyone is always safe. And the fact is that if you work in a distillery, you taste spirits all day long, but you don't drink spirits. You taste it and you spit it out. Sorry if that sounds a little bit rude, but that is what you have to do. I've spoken.
The word would be you exit it.
That's right. You taste it. You need the sensory experience because you have to make sure that the quality is right and you're learning your craft. But this is not. I think there was an episode of The Simpsons many years ago where he went to work at a brewery and he just drank beer all day. Don't expect that. You have to operate dangerous equipment, which includes the still and all of the distillery equipment. You have to operate a forklift very often. This is not a place to go and drink and work. And this goes even further when we talk about the state of Tennessee passed a law that allows students between 18 and 21 to taste and spit. They're not allowed to drink anything at all. And even at my distillery, when I was teaching, apprentice distillers, we do not drink. I wouldn't drink and work if I were at Motlow, teaching a class on campus, and I wouldn't drink at work if I was at a distillery, although it might sound counterintuitive. We're here to make it. We're here to, produce a product, make the best thing we can. You do have to taste it, but you don't need to swallow it.
Is there an aroma that lives with you throughout the day? I mean, in the environment of the distillery?
There is an aroma of aging whiskey in the barrels and the fermentation and the spirit being distilled. And I can tell you, I very often went home at the end of the day having just had a lot of whiskey splash on the sleeve of my shirt. And so fortunately never been pulled over between the distillery and my home in East Nashville, just a few miles away. But if I had, I probably would have smelled funny. But again, another reason.
How would you explain that to a police officer? Officer, I just work with whiskey. I don't consume it.
That's true. And not just that, but we sometimes, when you're done with a whiskey barrel, a lot of the folks out there that are enthusiasts will know that one of the things that differentiates most American whiskey from most other spirits in the world is that we use a barrel one time, and then it cannot be used again to make Tennessee whiskey or bourbon.
Really?
And those used barrels have become they've been very valuable to ship them across the world. They go to Scotland and Ireland and Canada and Mexico and the Caribbean. They go to all the places where people make other aged spirits, since the Americans are the only ones that really just use them once. But for small operations, it's not really practical. The logistics don't work to get a small number of barrels in a shipping container to go to Scotland. So a lot of times we would cut those barrels in half and fill them with dirt and grow flowers and vegetables.
Well, they make furniture.
Make
furniture. A lot of furniture comes out of it.
If you look in my garden, I've got about 14 half-barrel planters that I'm growing, everything from basil, cilantro, various flowers, parsley this year, tomatoes, peppers. But I say all that to say, when you cut the barrel in half and stick it in the back of your truck or your Jeep or whatever, which is what I drive, you take it home, everything in the vehicle smells like whiskey, and even just for several weeks going past it. So again,
are you telling me that your flowers that you plant in the flower container made of the barrel may do better because they've got this root of scent?
You're
not going to confirm or deny.
I'm not going to say one way or the other. I know they wouldn't be happy if the barrel was still full of whiskey. That wouldn't
absolutely.
work. But who knows? It's possible. But they do smell like that. And I will tell you one thing. We gave some of these planters to some friends of ours that had recently moved back to Tennessee after living in other states. My wife and I went and helped them set their garden up. And when we were out there, we brought them a couple of those planters and sawed them in half. I got the circular saw out, freshly cut them, and they left them face down on the lawn overnight and came back the next day and the grass was dead.
Oh, maybe a good weed killer.
Might be a good weed killer.
One last question before I get back to Gary on the future and life of Montlo in August. Is there continued experimentation of new tastes, new blends? Any industry that's going to compete, survive, and prosper is continually looking into the future with a new taste. Is there a new taste that is experimented?
Well, so there are two things going on here. One thing is we are preserving a tradition. So Tennessee whiskey, which is, in fact, according to the federal government, Tennessee whiskey is bourbon. It's bourbon that is made in Tennessee and has been filtered through maple charcoal. There is one exemption in the state law for that, which is Pritchard's Distillery does not have to use the maple charcoal. Whole story there. Phil Pritchard down in Kelso has got the only exemption. But Tennessee whiskey and bourbon are very standard products in the sense that they have to be made of a mash of at least 51% corn, all grain, must be distilled no higher than 160 proof. I could go on through the list. Within that, there's still things you can do to change the flavor. You can change the mash bill around a little bit as long as it's at least 51% corn. You can use different types of barrel aging. But beyond Tennessee whiskey and bourbon, there's a huge range of variety that's come into the market with all these small distilleries of all different kinds of flavored spirits and things other than Tennessee whiskey and bourbon.
We'll be right back with concluding comments, and Gary will be saying all the ways to set into your Montlo life coming up in 2 months. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
We're visiting with Jennifer Sanchez.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe.
When you switch to Progressive and bundle your home and auto, you could save hundreds, and that's a surprising amount of money.
Whoa, that's like farmer's market money.
That's like give me a gallon of that locally sourced raw honey money.
That's certified organic heirloom tomatoes in every imaginable color except red money.
That's let's get 2 pounds of pink oyster mushrooms money. I'm not even sure I like pink oyster mushrooms.
Guess it's time to find out, because you could save hundreds when you switch to Progressive and bundle. Then the world is your pink oyster mushroom. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Do you have over $10,000 in credit card debt? If you're feeling the financial impact with unprecedented economic challenges, DebtBlue is here for you. With DebtBlue's Success Guarantee, you pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved.
I'm just living sky high right now. I'm very thankful for it, and the team at DebtBlue are phenomenal. They're able to work with you. They're great.
Call for your free debt resolution information now. 800-200-6895. 800-200-6895.
Middle Point Landfill's Mike Klassen.
If you're a citizen in Rutherford County, the cost if Middle Point doesn't exist to you as a taxpayer is going to be at least $200 per household per year. But if you live in the city, because you have free disposal in the city, that number is closer to $400 per household on your property taxes right away.
The garbage that we generate will have to be taken 60 miles upstream, and you'll have to cover the charge. We don't want to be up the creek without a paddle. The answer's here, Middle Point Landfill.
50 fresh, flavorful seasons at the Rutherford County Farmers Market.
You bring in your tomatoes.
Ready to bring them all home. I'm not sure there's a better lineup in the league.
Instant games from the Tennessee Lottery are guaranteed to be a big hit this summer. Play today for your crack at a whole lot of cash. The Tennessee Lottery, game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Bill Krell's concluding comments on the WGNS Radio Roundtable Thursday morning edition. Hey, Gary, what kind of well, let me get back to Bruce for a second. Can you give a phone number and or an email of how people can reach out to you? Because I think you might have triggered off a lot of interest, and not only traditional students, parents, grandparents, people who want to look at the creation of a new hobby, as we spoke about earlier. So how do they reach you?
So I can be reached directly by phone at 615-916-0042.
One more time so that they can run and get a pencil and write it down.
Right. Yeah, alrighty. 615-916-0042. My email address is bboeko@mscc.edu. That's bboeko@mscc.edu. Or you can just go to motlow.edu and you'll find the Distilled Spirits program right there on the landing page, and you can click there and it will take you to the same information I just gave you.
Great. And Gary, walk people through. August is going to be here before we know it. Registration's open. Got to fill up those classes. You're going to hear my editorial about fill up those on-ground classes. I believe there's a role for online, but I believe there's a stronger role if a person is living relatively close, do not have personal issues, and do not have schedule issues. Loved it, especially in political science. Got to have them in class, and got to have them face to face. See, that's why your engagement, to engage them, especially today's times. You can't carry on a political discussion on Zoom. My opinion, editorial. So kind of walk us through the parent who is going to be walking their student into enrollment.
Visiting the homepage, the motlow.edu, and then clicking on apply. And it's nicely laid out the steps that are required to complete the application, have the transcript sent, the ACT or SAT scores, and it's a very simple process. Our enrollment team is ready to help as well. And my phone number is 615-220-7803.
One more time for the pencil writer.
615-220-7803. And I'll be happy to, our office will be happy to transfer and get people to the proper people to get them going.
I have said this before, and it's not because I've been associated with community colleges for a long period of time, but unless somebody has a specific objective in their four-year university college education, community college can be not only the best investment, but it's an open ticket for improved enrollment when the student transfers from the two-year to the four-year program. Cost saving, tremendous. Gives the option for the young man or young woman to explore, to kind of realize, what are my immediate short-term academic goals? What's my short-term objectives, and so forth. And the ability to come into a community college, a friendly environment. They don't get the fraternities, sororities. They don't get the on-campus living. And I've got to say this, and this is kind of as a personal observation from 3 of my 4 grandkids now, or either have finished college, they're undergraduate, or completing college. One of the greatest problems one has in college living is to have a roommate or roommates that are compatible. I'm not so sure how many issues of student success or failure in the on-campus living is enhanced or exasperated by problems in the campus residency. And so if I were advising the student or advising the parent, I'd say, that's a consideration. Plus the fact is, you want to go to a friendly campus. I've known Gary now, it's almost hard to believe, nearly 20 years. And yet Gary epitomizes that friendliness, openness. Gary never is walking around the campus without a smile and a hello and a hi to the young men and young women, or the older men and older women. And as we've talked before, I shall never forget the lovely lady I had who went back to school in her early 80s because her family urged her to get out of the house after grief of the loss of her husband. And she is always in my mind and always in my thought that education is for everybody.
Exactly.
Gary, some concluding comments.
First of all, I want to thank you, Bill, for everything that you do for the college, for our students especially. You're always there. You have a wonderful smile and a kind word every time I see you, and I know that's the same way for our students and our staff and faculty, and we really appreciate that.
Well,
so thank you
very
for all
much.
that you do for us. And if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to call. Start with montlow.edu, apply now, and that will be able to help them get started on that journey. And call, ask questions, stop by and visit, and we're happy to help.
You know what's, I just thought of it, and a lot of people do this, but not as many people that should do this. If you're a parent or you're a grandparent, and I continually stretch out to grandparents because your influence and your motivation and your experience is so significant to your grandchildren. Someday, without even an appointment, and especially with summer school underway, take a walk of the campus. Walk and see people gathering. Don't necessarily open the door, but look in a classroom and see how students are engaged in the classroom. Take a look at the general environment. You know, it's an environment of people talking, people sharing. It is going to be extremely key to be tracking your first 16 students in the program ready to embark in August, and to see how they relate. I can't begin to tell you that networking in a college between student to student, not necessarily student to faculty or student to administration, I've seen more phenomenal relationships, professional relationships, and believe it or not, some personal relationships develop as a result of the interaction between students, no matter what age they may be. I have seen the older student, a lot of our veterans who have come back, who certainly have been as not necessarily a formal mentor, but an informal mentor to the young men and the young women.
Networking is so important, and that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly.
That is so true.
I love to tell the story of a student who came back to me a few years later. He said, you know, I got a great job, and I want to tell you all about the job, but I got to tell you, I think how I got the job. I said, yeah, what happened? Well, they had an interview panel of 3 people, and I went for the interview, and I was sitting there, and one of the interviewers said, and where did you go to school? He said, well, I started out my education at Motlow State in Smyrna. Oh, I went there. And I started comparing notes through the interview. And that person was probably the most active of the 3 interviewers, and specifically he said, I don't know if I got the job. I don't know if I got the job because of that person, but I'm sure my Motlow relationship didn't hurt. Didn't hurt. So, you know, a great future. I think both of you gentlemen in education, the key word is optimism for tomorrow. Yes, we go through issues. Yes, we go through problems. Yes, we see what's on the media. Yes, we get involved in discussions politically, financially, economically. Oh, I guess I do have to ask this question. It's kind of been put in the back burner, Bruce, on this one. It was considered that tariffs might have an effort and an impact at Jack Daniels.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there are a large number of small distilleries, a small number of large distilleries in the country. The ones that are the most impacted by the tariffs are going to be the big distilleries because they are the ones that do the most exporting. And there's been a lot in the media about that. We talked about it a little bit recently at our Tennessee Distillers Guild meeting in May. And we are obviously, like a lot of other industries, hopeful that that won't have too much of an impact, or if it does, it'll be over a short period of time. Because as far as Tennessee, that the people around the world know Tennessee for country music, but they know it for whiskey, probably more than anything else. So it is our biggest export culturally, along with music, and we want to make sure that people are able to enjoy that around the world and support jobs here in Middle Tennessee.
And the beauty is it's a quality product. If we were producing a product based on cost effectiveness and the cheapest, lowest one, guess what? We're so pleased to have had visiting us this morning a dear friend Gary Winton, who is the director of campus and certainly the inspiration for student, faculty, and staff alike at Motlow State, which is a huge impact on Rutherford County, our Smyrna campus, and the neighboring counties. And we're very pleased that Gary brought along with us Bruce Boyko, who has just been hired to head up this new distillery program in campus in Shelbyville. Just be sure that the whiskey making instruction is not mixed up with the pencil making, which is Shelbyville is the pencil capital of the world. That not too many people realize. Have a wonderful day, folks. Enjoy, be safe, be happy. See you next week.